will begin the July 11th, 2013 regular Henry County School Board meeting. And we'll ask Mrs. Overby to make the roll call.
Dr. DeVault, Ms. Flanagan,
Here.
Mr. Law, Ms. Maddox,
Here.
Mr. Milner,
Here.
Ms. Rogers,
Here.
and Mr. Zayer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We need an approval for the agenda this morning.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda this morning. All in favor, please raise your right hand. We'd like to welcome all of our visitors this morning. We have a lot of our assistant principals here, and I'm sure they're going to be in the building getting ready for August 12th, but we appreciate you taking the time to come. And also our other guests. We'd like to welcome Mrs. Lantrum to be with us to the Henry County School family. She'll be working in human resources, and I know her experience will be a wonderful thing for us.
Thank you.
Could I ask Mr. Milner to do the invocation this morning and Mr. Zayer to do the pledge?
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, dear Lord, for this day. Thank you, dear Lord, for allowing us to assemble, dear Lord, to discuss the business of the Henry County school system. We pray, dear Lord, that you will bless us, that we will make the right decisions, dear Lord, for our students, for our teachers, for our parents, our faculty, dear Lord, and the entire community. Bless us, dear Lord, as we continue this meeting. These and all blessings we ask in our Son's name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have some very special awards this morning to make you aware of and to tell you a little bit about them. And Mrs. Rogers is going to discuss the first award that is being received, the Green Ribbon Award.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Maddox. Magna Vista High School is one of 64 schools in the nation to receive the U.S. Department of Education's 2013 Green Ribbon Award. Magna Vista High School is the first high school in Virginia to receive this honor and one of only 4 total schools in the state to be designated as a Green Ribbon School. The award is based upon 3 pillars. 1, reduce environmental impact and cost. 2, improve the health and wellness of students and staff. And 3, provide effective environmental and sustainability education incorporating STEM, civic skills, and green career pathways. The school was formally honored in Washington, D.C. in June, and there will be a celebration for the entire school and community at a later date. We congratulate Mrs. Agnew and her staff and students at Magna Vista High School. Great honor.
And I believe we have another one, Mrs. Flanagan.
We do. This is for, in honor of Ms. Gracie Agnew, the VASSP 2013 Outstanding High School Principal Award. 1. Gracie Agnew has been named the 2013 Outstanding High School Principal of Virginia by the Virginia Association of Secondary School Principals. Ms. Agnew is now in the running for the National Principal of the Year Award. The Executive Director of VASSP said, "We are honored to recognize the outstanding work of Gracie Agnew. Effective schools are vital to the success of students and the high expectations demanded by principals, and their belief in the capacity of all students to perform is critical in school leadership. The stories of such leadership that we capture in the annual award program continues to impress and inspire us. As a principal, Agnew has proven success in involving the local community in the life of the school and has shown an astute awareness of current and emerging issues as well as passion for improving the school's learning environment. Agnew received the State Association's award at the 86th Annual Virginia Middle and High School Principals Conference and Exposition held June 23rd through 26th, 2013. She will be honored by Herb Jones later this fall with a presentation of the state's Principal's Ring at a dinner ceremony in Richmond. In addition, all state winners, including Agnew, will be honored at a 3-day event in Washington, D.C., September 18th through the 21st. Events highlights feature a visit to the Capitol Hill to meet with legislators and networking with some of the best principals across the nation. The event will culminate with a black tie gala to recognize the achievements of each of the state honorees, the state finalists, and the national winners. And we wish you all the luck and thank you for all the hard work that you have done for us, as well as all of our other principals. Thank you.
I get a picture, right?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're blocking his view. You don't have to get that close.
Okay. Thank you.
Gracie, I know everyone on the board appreciates everything you do for us, and I said you have certainly brought wonderful recognition to your school, to our school system, and also to Henry County. So thank you for everything.
And Madam Chairman, just to let you know, we have some events planned throughout the year, and I have had a chance to attend some of the award ceremonies, so I think the schools earn banners and other things that will be displayed, but we are going to plan a couple events throughout the year to recognize some of the achievements we talked about.
We'll move on to the informational agenda, and Mr. House, could you introduce our first speaker who will talk about Adolescent Literacy Project?
Yes, Ms. Maddox. The adolescent literacy class is the class that is required for all of our secondary teachers as they recertify every 5 years. We have had 85 of our teachers to go through this class. What we'd like to do this morning is that we have Ms. Monica Hatchett from Bass High School here, and she's going to share with you how she's using this class to impact her instruction in her classroom and also our community, as you'll see with her project. At this time, I'd like to introduce Ms. Hatchett.
Good morning. I had the privilege of participating in adolescent literacy from UVA for Henry County teachers this past spring. And last year I taught 10th grade English, so the projects that I used were relative to those particular students. However, as I move to teaching AP 12 next year, I can see that I will be using a lot of the same things when I move on with them. One of the central projects of the course is for us to examine a small group of our students and determine their qualitative reading abilities through a decoding and comprehension reading analysis inventory. So we begin by looking at a decoding list with students and having them read particular words just to let us know, can they read these words? This is the decoding portion of the project. And then each student is also asked to read a passage and answer questions, comprehension-style questions with varying levels of difficulty. And then those pieces of information are put together in a reading inventory on that sample group of students. Then further in the class, we were asked to do several other projects based on what we learned from the qualitative reading inventory. The sample on the right is a famous editorial written by a small child about whether Santa Claus exists. And so my students read that particular editorial with the artifact of the actual letter and then answered questions that went along with it. In the class, we're asked to do 4 practical application projects. I elected to do a vocabulary project in which my students reviewed vocabulary terms that we had discussed through the year. For example, the first word that you see here is querulous, which means to complain in a whining manner. And instead of just reviewing the terms and definitions, my students created what we call bio poems or biographical poems on the words so that they could come up with creative ways to remember the words. So, for example, the student who created this one decided that someone who is querulous would probably be named Debbie Downer. And the traits, synonyms, the relatives of this particular term were determined. And students also created visual images to go along with these to help them to internalize the vocabulary that we had been studying. Additionally, my students did a writing project. The English students I taught last year also took AP European History. And so in conjunction with that course, we did a cross-curricular writing project, and they each researched a world religion, which is part of their SOLs for world history, and they created essays and class presentations. And the example you see is one slide of that presentation that he created about the religion of Vodun. And so he shared that with the class after writing. Additionally, we used differentiated texts. And our new English textbooks were very helpful in this particular part of the project because we have interactive readers that go along with that. Because one of our 10th grade English SOLs was to examine nonfiction, my students read Michael J. Fox's congressional testimony on Alzheimer's research from several years ago, and through the interactive readers, they read in varying levels of difficulty. And within that differentiated text project, they then, after reading on their reading levels, were able to answer questions about the particular passage that they read. Then we followed up by having them watch the actual testimony, and they did a raft exercise where they chose different perspectives from which to present a response for the particular project. With all of that being done, and as excited as we were to do all of those, the most meaningful project for my students was by far the technology project that we did. I have the privilege of editing a blog for a colleague who works in Richmond, and he was writing about Wikipedia and its use in the classroom. So I was sharing with my students that, this is a really interesting idea about how Wikipedia is all put together, and they got really excited about it. And we discovered that 2 local entities did not have a Wikipedia presence at all. Prior to our project, if you went to Wikipedia and searched Bassett Furniture Industries or Stone Lee, all you saw was the name and location and a blank white page. So my students and I went to the Bassett Historical Society and sifted through lots and lots of information that we have locally about these entities. And then they also spent time researching on the internet through the National Historical Registries and other articles that were published online about Bassett Furniture and about Stone Lee, so that they could gather information that they felt was important for people around the world to know about these really important local entities. So then they began to work on the process of how do we create this for a global audience. They spent some time looking at some Wikipedia pages, and then they worked in small groups of 4. And I teach 4 classes because they're every other day. So I had 4 groups of 4 in each class. Some of them were working on Bassett Furniture Industries, some on Stone Lee, and each group of 4 would decide, okay, this is what we want the page to look like. Then the next class would add to it and edit, so they're working cooperatively within the classroom, but also across the classes with people that they weren't actually in the room with. So together, they came up with the Wikipedia pages you're about to see. The first one is Bassett Furniture Industries. And again, this was only the words Bassett Furniture and a white page before the students did this. Through the process of creating this page, they decided they'd like a timeline format so that they could tell the important events in the history of the company. They found pictures. They learned a lot about getting copyright permission to publish photos. We had to request special permission from Wikipedia for students to publish on their site. And the students spent time interviewing people that they know locally who had worked for the company or who knew things about the company. And this is the product they came up with. The next page is Stone Lee. one was a little harder to find photos that we were given permission to use. A lot of the photography of Stoneleigh online is copyrighted by the Bulletin or by wedding photographers who were not willing to share their photos with the students for this particular purpose. And we did not actually take a field trip to either location. So this site only shows a map. But these students followed the same format and decided that they would like to present a timeline of important events in the history of Stoneleigh, and they shared information about the particular entity and its National Historic Registry. They also decided in each group that it was very important to look at their references, their works cited. So through the process, they really were able to apply the concepts that we teach the students every day as far as the importance of research and citing their sources. But they were very excited to know this has to be perfect because somebody in another country might read this. Almost more importantly, they were very excited to know that our school administrators had gone to their Wikipedia pages and seen it. And so when administrators came through the halls at school and said, hey, I saw that Wikipedia page. That was a really great job. That was pretty cool that you did that. The students were very excited to know that they had had such an important role in creating something. And so I think that there will be a lot of applications of this sort of project in the future for students, no matter what grade level, because they see the value in doing something in this real world sort of application. So they were very excited to do that. So today I say all that to you just to say that professional opportunities, professional development opportunities that you all share with us as Henry County educators are more than just opportunities for us. They have become excellent opportunities for our students. And I appreciate, and I know my colleagues appreciate your support of our continued learning so that we can share that continued learning with our students.
I love the way you incorporated relevancy into that lesson.
Thank you.
To see how what they were doing and learning at the same time was making a difference. And I think often kids don't have that connection about what they're doing in the classroom and how it's going to impact something outside of the classroom. Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Cotton, would you like to introduce our informational piece, student athletics?
Certainly. Mr. Garrett Dillard is going to be presenting for the group. Also, our athletic directors are here in attendance, as you noted earlier. There are a couple changes to athletics that are going into the place for the upcoming year, and I wanted to make sure the board was updated on those changes, some of the things we've talked about throughout the year, and certainly some things we'll be working on as we move forward. But Mr. Dillard is going to provide that presentation, and I certainly invite you to ask questions after he's complete. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Over the past few months, Dr. Cotton and the athletic directors have discussed various topics related to athletics and activities, and I'm going to update you on 3 of those topics: 8th grade participation, coaches training, and the pledge program. Last year, 8th graders were allowed to participate in the high school sports on the JV level, but it was on a need basis system. If a team needed a couple other players and they couldn't find them in the high school, they could get 8th graders or solicit 8th grade participation, but there was an unwritten limit. 2 or 3 8th graders per team per sport was the unwritten limit, and that had to be approved by both principals, both coaches, and the parents in order for that 8th grader or those 8th graders to participate. To make this process easier and to open it up for more 8th graders, this year it's going to be based on performance. If an 8th grader has the skill set to compete on the JV level, then those 8th graders will have the right to try out for the JV team. And there is no limit on participation. If there's one 8th grader who's deemed qualified to play on that JV team by the coaches, then one 8th grader will play. If there's 5, then the coach has the right to keep all 5 of those 8th graders. And all 8th graders will have the right to try out. Those who don't make it can go back and play middle school sports. A couple factors affecting those adjustments. One, the middle school teams have had a difficult time finding a full schedule. They've had to play a limited schedule. Some teams are playing 10 or less games, and some have even played 5 or fewer games. Another factor affecting the adjustment is decreased participation on the high school level. Many high school students are now specializing in sports. The VHSL has allowed for year-round practice, so kids who play baseball, maybe they're playing baseball year-round instead of playing football or wrestling, so you have fewer students actually trying out. And last year that meant 10 high school teams needed 8th graders to participate. And by opening it up, hopefully we won't have any issues with fielding teams this upcoming season. The second topic I'm going to update you on is coaches training, and this is one of the 2 new items that I'll discuss. But this is a countywide training for all middle and high school coaches. That's paid, volunteer, head coaches, as well as assistant coaches. And each coach will have to attend 1 session per year, and the sessions will be led by the athletic directors, and they'll discuss various topics. And all the topics that they discuss will focus around 4 goals: to create a culture of best practices, create consistency among all 4 schools, as well as between middle schools and between high schools, and to establish as well as reiterate the expectations of coaches, and to increase sportsmanship. And the 2 meetings have been scheduled for July 22nd at 6:30 at Bassett and July 29th at 6:30 at Magna Vista. And the final piece that I will update you on is the pledge program. There's been conversation about having a random drug testing program, and there's been research and conversation about that, but we're going to start with the pledge program this year, in which students will pledge not to use, possess, or distribute alcohol, tobacco, illegal or synthetic drugs while participating in sports for Henry County Public Schools. And the purpose is to bring attention to the dangers of drug use, ensure safety of student athletes, and to eventually transition into a full random drug testing program. All student athletes will have to sign the pledge along with a parent. So just like the physical form and the concussion form, it has to be on file in order for a student athlete to participate. And this is going to begin effective with the fall 2013 sports season, so it's right around the corner. Parents and students will receive more information. Each athletic director will hold a parent meeting prior to the beginning of each season, so there will be more conversation and a chance for parents to ask questions at those meetings. And the pledge will also be available on the Henry County Public School website. And this is a growing program, but it does have some promise to it. And those are the 3 things that I wanted to update you on today. And if there are any questions or comments, you can ask those now.
Just one thing to add to that, as we talked about in a work session previously, we were looking at middle school athletics. As we discussed at that time, we're going to spend the next several months looking at middle school athletics. We didn't make a change we didn't make a significant change to what happened last year. The only difference is we're trying to increase the number of games and schools that we're competing with, because as Mr. Dillard said, there were some sports that had very few games because of limited participation, but we do plan to bring a recommendation back during the course of this upcoming year, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of some things that are going on right now with athletics.
Thank you, Mr.
One other thing, and this is perhaps more in line with the coaches, is I'm pretty sure that everybody aware that I'm a retired military combat veteran, and I probably hold higher respect for the flag than most people. It bothers me when I'm at a basketball game and the national anthem is played, and to see a coach standing there with his head down and his arms crossed. I realize that we cannot compel them to show proper respect, but I think it's setting a bad example for our coaches when they do not show the proper respect in front of the students. So I wish that we could work on that.
And that's something that we can definitely add to the agenda for that coaches training, is just to make sure that coaches understand things of that nature, set an example for the students as well as the fans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. And also, thanks to all of you guys back there. I know you spent hours and hours working on this, and I think you've done a great job. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda are speakers from the floor. We have 2 today, both from the Henry County Education Association. Ms. Carter, you want to go first?
For the last 4 years, the motto of the Henry County Education Association has been promoting professionalism while teaching, leading, and learning. This morning, we'd like to discuss just 6 points of pride. There are more, but we'll discuss 6. But before I do that, we have 3 issues we'd like to address to Dr. Cotton and the board. First of all, we want to say thank you for addressing a salary scale, for instigating a study of the salary scale. That's the right thing to do. We appreciate that. Secondly, we want to say thank you for considering a possible raise in January of 2014. And thirdly, we would like you to consider evening board meetings completely. It's amazing to me that a school system of this size, that we do not have board meetings that are a little more accessible to teachers, parents, and the community, the taxpayer. And I know that sometimes we don't have too many people attending either. And I will say that the people of our community should be attending the school board meetings because this is our future. When we educate students, we're educating the future of Henry County. For our points of pride, we want to say we're proud of the teachers in our system. We're proud that, I know this number could flex a little, but about 45% of our teachers have advanced degrees. That's good for our students, and we're proud of that. We're proud of all the Teachers of the Year in every building, and then ultimately a Teacher of the Year for the county. We're proud that we have Mrs. Agnew, the Principal of the Year for the state, and going on to nationals. We're proud to have nearly 30 national board certified teachers, and we're going to thank Dr. Cotton for allowing us to honor those people at Convocation this year as we continue to promote that. We're thankful for the Harvest Foundation's interest in that and for Mr. House, who has pushed this program so well, and Pamela Drews, who works with those teachers. That's an excellent thing. About 3 years ago, Hampton Roads had the most national board certified teachers in the state, and I predict that one day we may have one of the highest percentages with this continued support. We're proud of our students who accomplish things in so many areas, too numerous to mention. And finally, as the president of the Henry County Education Association, I have been really honored to represent teachers the last 4 years. But I'm proud this morning to present to you Maria Ayers, who is going to be our new president for the next 2 years. Maria teaches preschool, yes, and Axton Elementary. And together we really look forward to continuing to promote professionalism through teaching, leading, and learning pre-K through 12 in Henry County.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Okay.
And the only thing I wanted to say was I'm just very pleased to serve on behalf of the Henry County Education Association. I'm looking forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Our consent agenda this morning is extremely long, but I think there are all kinds of things that happen this time of year. So if you would take 1 second just to look over those 11 items and see if there is 1 or 2 that you would like to take out and discuss separately or vote upon separately, or if you are ready to approve them as a group.
I would just like to ask on the tuition for the government school, I'm assuming it remains the same, and am I also correct in assuming that the numbers are the same? Okay.
Any other questions or concerns?
Motion to approve the consent agenda is presented.
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Thank you. We have the action agenda next, and Mr. House, I think you're up for the approval of contract with UVA.
Yes, Max. Again, each fall and each spring, we contract with UVA to offer the adolescent literacy course, as Monica demonstrated this morning. The amount of the contract is $18,000 $900. Recommend that approval to enter into this contract with the University of Virginia.
Any questions for Mr. House?
Move we approve, Madam Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the contract with UVA for the course that Mrs. Hatchett just demonstrated for us. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And also, Mr. House, approval for the year one support for the Warrior Tech School.
As you're aware, Warrior Tech will open in the fall, 2013. We'll be focusing on project-based learning. We'll also be covering what we've been talking a lot about in our area, the 4 C's, working with our students on critical thinking, creativity, effective communication, and collaboration. We've also been working on it as we're revising our curriculum. And this, with Warrior Tech, will be emphasizing those things. This is year one support, and it makes available all the resources available through New Tech, such as the ecosystem that they will use in terms of a lot of the resources that are available throughout the network of New Tech schools, not just Magna Vista, but across the country. They'll have access to information and things that they can use in their classrooms. The amount is $101,200, and that is part of our Harvest Grant.
Any questions for Mr. House?
Are all of the structures in place for the New Tech school?
Yes, everyone is in place.
And I think Dr. Cotton mentioned yesterday that he went up and looked at the media center and was amazed what they've already done, so we may all want to drop by and have an opportunity to see what they're doing.
It's amazing how much progress has been made in a short amount of time, and you can really see it coming together. I also wanted to note that the agreement with the New Tech Network, I'll be bringing to the board hopefully in August. As Mr. House said, we are using the Harvest Foundation grant to support this, which is perfectly in line with that, the professional development that's involved. Also, a representative from New Tech Network makes site visits out to observe and support the teachers as we're moving forward. But I'll be bringing that agreement forward so that you all can see what's involved in that moving forward. But we're really excited about where we are right now, where we're going.
Okay. And have we finalized the students that will be attending?
Last I checked, I think Ms. Agnew's gone, I believe. I think they had 97. They had 97 students.
Well, I just heard yesterday that there's a waiting list already.
Okay.
I believe they're at about 107, which is phenomenal because we wanted 100, and we're now over 100 for the first year.
Is our list of students representative of the demographics of the school system?
I don't have that information available to me right now, Mr. Miller, but I can make that available for you. Okay.
We'll do a breakdown of the demographics. I would assume that it should be because the only requirement was that they had an interest in being a part of the program. So hopefully we have a good representation, but we'll definitely provide that. Not only demographics of our students, but I'm also intrigued by the number of students we're getting from private schools and other places. So that might be interesting.
So I'm sort of hearing that we might be reversing the trend of our students leaving going to private schools, leaving private schools coming back.
Maybe too early to say that, but it is something to look at. We have definitely created some interest and a buzz because there are students who really embrace this way of learning, and I really felt the students were going to be the ones drumming it up, but I'm very encouraged to know that before we've even started, we already have our 100 students and more who have expressed interest.
So we're going to take 100. We're going to
start with 100. If we go any over 100, it will be, we'll have to make sure we can accommodate with class size and those kinds of things. But we are very excited because, as we've been monitoring throughout the year, we've been slowly increasing, but now we're over 100. That's exciting.
I make a motion for the approval of the
agenda is the selection of a delegate and an alternate to represent Henry County Public Schools at the 2013 BSBA Delegate Assembly and the regional meeting. Dr. Cobb.
Yes, Madam Chairman, this is the, something that we do each year, where we designate, usually past practice has been to designate the chair and the vice chair as an alternate, to serve in this capacity, and I would just recommend, the same that we've done in the past, would be Dr. Ball as the, designee, and Mrs. Maddox as the alternate.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. And we have 5 items under the superintendent's report. Dr. Cobb.
I'm sure doing all of those are there for you to review. We did not do a superintendent's highlight report with the summer. We haven't had as much going on. We have a lot going on, I will say, in the planning component, but with schools being out, we don't have any highlights to share. I do want to let you know that I will be providing a back-to-school preparedness report in August, which we're working on, to let you know all of the things that have been put in place for the upcoming year. As far as the other reports that are included there, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you have about any of those this time.
Any questions for Dr. Cobb? Are there matters from the board that you would like to mention this morning? Not hearing any, we'll move to the reminder of dates. On July 25th, the school board will be in a retreat from 9 until 1 o'clock at Chapman's. On August the 6th, that is convocation. 8. I'm sorry, 8. 1. I don't want to. On August the 6th, we will have the convocation for the opening of the school year for teachers. That will be at Magna Vista High School at 9 o'clock in the morning. And on August the 8th will be our regular school board meeting here in the Summerlin meeting room. On August the 12th is the first day of school. A very exciting day around here, so you might want to get out and see all the little kindergarten children when they get off the bus. They're always excited. On July the 22nd and 23rd, the Virginia School Board Association is holding a conference on education. This is the one that used to be called the Governor's Conference. And it is at the Marriott in Richmond. And on September 30th, there's a new legislative advocacy conference at the Omni in Charlottesville. At this time, we're going to move into a work session upstairs in the 3rd floor meeting room. I think it will be a very interesting one and that all of you would enjoy attending. It is one of Mrs. Copenhagen's technology treats. So we will adjourn to the 3rd floor for the rest of our meeting. People who address the board must register with Mrs. Oglesby in the superintendent's office in advance. That's all.
Thank you.
We're going to talk a little bit about BYOT, which is Bring Your Own Technology, and the definition of it is going to be approved devices by Henry County Public Schools. When I usually give this, I tell the people, the audience, to take out their cell phones, and we're going to do some little curriculum things. But today, to save time, we were not going to do that. But I am going to do a little protocol with you in a minute. Oh, this is not working too.
Leave it in here. Just take it for me.
Our goals, our committee met, our technology committee met, and we had 2 goals: to provide technology-rich classrooms for our students, which allows an opportunity for them to function in an ever-changing global society. And you know how our society changes every single day. We can't predict what our little kids in preschool are going to be learning in those years to come, but we have to keep up with it. To provide our students with the tools for communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. classroom technology. Students already have their devices, and we don't want to do this just because they have them. You know, with our technology, it has to be curriculum driven, and that's why we're successful, I think, in our implementations, because it always has to have a fit. It's not just a device. Collaboration and research are at their fingertips. Note-taking will be legible. One-to-one in all classrooms will be available. Student ownership of their learning will be promoted. Challenges. As any implementation, you have challenges. One is the definition of a device. What kind of devices are we going to let them bring into our schools? The definition of appropriate and inappropriate use. Teacher anxiety and acceptance. Equity issues. Personal and division liability. Implementation plan. This is what the committee adopted. We upgraded our network, and if you have any questions at the end about the network, Tayway can answer those. We upgraded the network at Bassett and Magna Vista. We're going to establish a policy. I did get principal input. I got student input, and they were so cute when we had them in here. I went to the student advisory committee, and we gave them the challenges, and they wrote them down. And one of the things that they said over and over and over, we're afraid our teachers are still old school, but I don't think they are. I got teacher input at the teacher advisory committee. I got parent input at the parent advisory committee. I'm presenting to you today to get your input. We have to train our teachers. We're going to train our students. And sometime after school starts, we're going to implement it at Bassett. We're not going to do it at both high schools at the beginning of school because I think Magna Vista has enough on their plate with new tech. So we're going to start it at Bassett and then move over to Magna Vista. We had a lot of meetings, like I said. Some of the pros that came from the meetings across the board were, it's going to open up new doors with technology and learning. We're catching up with devices that students have at home. Sometimes a student will have a device better than the ones we let them use in school. It's going to allow everyone to stay up to date. It allows for good mobility and note-taking. It opens up better ways for communication. It allows a faster way to get work done, and it allows one-to-one in each classroom. I will tell you that some of our teachers already use these devices in school, teacher directed. Some of them do media pages where they'll have a question on poll everywhere at the beginning of the day, and then the student will come in, take out their device, answer the question, and then they'll put their devices away. So that's some of the things that we're going to use them for. The challenges, security for the devices and the network, and Taylor's worked through some of those. The knowledge of the devices, not by the students, but by the teachers, and the equity. What happens if a student comes into the classroom and he doesn't have a device that will get on the network? What are we going to do? All right, these are some steps that we're going to take at Bassett. We're going to do a school implementation of BYOT areas. The school will have certain color areas for the implementation. The blue area, the student will have, it's like a green area, the student will have access to their device at all the times. Examples, the media center and the cafeteria. The orange area or the yellow area will just be teacher directed. When they're in the classroom, it's up to the teacher if they're going to use their device. The red area, no technology devices, particularly during testing or other areas that the principals suggest. Curriculum ideas, of course, we do polls, surveys, research, media walls. I will tell you that I was in a little iPad classroom in 4th grade, and they were doing a story. They had their iPads out, and it was the Iditarod race. And one student said, "What happens to the dogs when they get too old to race?" And the teacher said, "Get online immediately and research that." So it's at their fingertips, immediate access. So if you will look at your, we're going to do a little mini protocol here. If you will look at your bring your own technology guidelines, and guys, there's some over there if you want to share one. If you will just look through that for a few minutes, I want 2 feedbacks. This is new. A lot of school divisions are doing it. I'm going to say again, in Henry County, we want it to be curriculum driven. We don't want it to be something that's just a gadget and we're doing it because everyone else is doing it. We want to have curricular ideas to do it. We want some warm feedback, look through the guidelines. This is research from many school divisions, and Tayway and I have been online all year long researching the best practices for bring your own technologies. We've gone to a lot of conferences and brought ideas back. I've been on the phone with a lot of school divisions to see what works, what doesn't work. So these are some of the guidelines that my committee came up with. We haven't published these yet, but we will once we get them all back. We will publish them. So read those a few minutes and then give me a little bit of warm feedback. And then if you have cool feedback, I want that too, because we need to move forward. So I'm going to give you about, 5 minutes?
You have a full prison.
Questions? Text, or you can do.
That's an obvious question.
I was going to say, let's do questions before we do the feedback. Okay.
I know that most children do have these devices, and I understand that, but I'm sure there are others in the world who do not. How are you going to work with a child who has no personal device to use?
We are going to have like iPods or iPads in that room that they can use and get online. That's very critical. I don't like any child to be separated or labeled that they don't have a smartphone. So we will have those things for teachers. They will have something they can check out.
And that's actually, the equity issue came up with the parent advisory. One of the parents said that now they feel they're going to be pressured to buy the latest and greatest smartphone. And we're talking about smartphones, but when we talk about technology, we mean iPads, iPods, their laptops. So I know that what comes to a lot of our minds are phones. But the iPads, a lot of students now have their own personal iPads, for example.
And you want to make sure you're closing that digital divide and not making it
Wider, correct. Any more questions?
The other question or observation or input I had to share this one. And teacher training will be critical for this. These days, we use curriculum and teachers sharing.
And we do have a lot of teachers in the high school that use it already and are way ahead of the game with the media walls and with the polls because they have those devices and they're using them.
I think that peer-to-peer training would implement something like this would be critical.
Is there a technological way to enforce the 3G, 4G? I mean, you make them use the Wi-Fi, and I ask this from just because it's like a constant battle to get my teenager to use the wireless network so we're not paying all the data charges.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't always pay attention to that. They're like, well, I guess I'm on the network, and then they download all the video, film, and
That will be in the policy they signed, that they have to be on our network because it will be filtered. The 3G and 4G I cannot filter.
Right.
At Bassett, we're not going to have a problem because you can't get access there anyway. But the 3G and 4G is not filtered. So they will sign that policy. Now, can we watch 1,200 students every day?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But, they will sign the policy that while they have their devices out, they will hit our network. And it will help the data for those devices.
No, this is my ignorance at Bassett, and I know because I can't do anything in Bassett High School.
But you will be if you hit the Wi-Fi.
So you can, there's
Right.
you can get on.
Right. And it will be a segmented piece of network. Tayway can speak to this more than I can. It will just be a student network that they will be on. It won't be, it won't reach our other network, so they couldn't get behind the firewall and do things. So it will be just a segmented piece that they have.
You said they're not allowed to establish a peer-to-peer network?
No, a peer-to-peer network would be if I'm real tech savvy, and those students are, okay, I can actually have a computer at home and have a server-based IP address, and I can actually establish a network at home with my device in the school, and I can actually share that network with students. We've had that to happen, so they're not allowed to do that.
Okay. Okay. With the increased number of these devices that will be available, I believe the opportunity for theft of these will increase. So I see that you have a place on here for a serial number.
Yes.
Have we thought about having the students to engrave on their device, like a lot of the, I see police engraving things like VIN numbers on cars and things like this. Have we considered this to make it more difficult for someone to steal it and pass it on?
Well, and that's a good point. They have their devices there now. We're not responsible for theft of their devices. Right. I know when my children get a device, I make them copy down the serial number, the MAC address immediately, and I store that. So if it is stolen, so that will be part of education for the students. You need your serial number and your MAC address. So if it is stolen, they can track it. But that that would have to be up to the parents because sometimes there's a cost in putting an engraving on there. Sometimes there's not.
But it may be something that we can offer for consideration.
There might be. Yes, I can look into that. I can certainly look into it.
To help preclude their device from being stolen.
Mr. Miller's question just brought something to my mind. In other school divisions that are doing this, they don't require the students to register their device, do they?
Some do, some don't. About more than half do require them to register because that you're protecting yourself. If it's stolen,
if they registered the device, a part of that could be what's the serial number, MAC number.
And that will be that's part of ours. Yeah.
I looked at the guidelines. I thought the guidelines were good. I noticed the school division has a right to inspect the student's personal devices. Sometimes it shouldn't be on there. As a school board member, my tolerance level for kids that don't abide by the permission form and the guidelines would be almost zero. That needs to be told to everybody right up front.
You know, the parent training is very important, I think, because when we did the iPad initiative, Mr. House and I met with every single parent in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and we gave them the guidelines, and they, when they come back to school, they still have those reinforced. So if parents know up front what our expectations, it's easier to implement something. And there are going to be challenges this year. That's why we're just doing it at one school, so we can work through those to see what we're doing.
No, and it's not that technology and these devices are a new thing, but they're incoming, they're ever changing. And I think the parents are more updated with, because, you know, as a parent myself of older children, you know, I didn't come in the age of technology, so I think parents now know a little bit more about technology and how important that it is and how much the kids can learn. So I think they'll be a little bit more tolerant of these policies and know how important that it is that they follow these guidelines.
And to be honest, we have no choice but to do this. I mean, you see little 2-year-olds with a smartphone, like, going through it, like, I mean, they know how to use this technology. So as these kids are coming through high school, they're going to be used to using it.
But I think where we're falling short.
That's sort of how I feel about it.
And where we're falling short is responsible use
Right.
of the technology.
Right.
I mean, I've even been in meetings with adults who don't use technology appropriately.
And there's an appropriate time to have your technology out and not.
You're right, and they need to learn that sooner than later because there are certain guidelines and limitations to using technology. And of course, now when you're having a conversation with your child, they're on the phone constantly.
Right.
But it's teaching students, you know, when it's appropriate to use it and not, and just saying you can't have it at all is not going to help us teach them those things.
Well, the other challenge is all the kids that are now having iPads all through elementary school. This is a way that kids already have the device for them to use their own device.
Okay, we asked for warm feedback, so when you read through the guidelines, what are some of the things that you felt that were on target?
Thought the guidelines were good. Does the board need to approve this policy, Dr. Gunn?
Eventually.
Not today.
No, not today. Today we just wanted to get some feedback.
I like the two that really jumped out at me was administration has the right at any time to request the students to turn off their privately owned technology. And I also like the last one, the administration of Henry County Public Schools reserve the right to search privately owned electronic device in accordance with Henry County Public Schools acceptable use policies. Okay. I think that that's really something that needs to be thoroughly enforced.
Amen.
I don't know if it's in the guidelines, but I like the idea of using color codes to implement. And of course, at some point, there'll be times when the entire school will be red.
Red, right. And we tried to use the school colors because I hated the red light, green light, you know.
Yeah.
So we tried to use the colors, and then we won't have big dots everywhere, but the students will know the areas, right, with their training. Okay, now do you have any cool feedback? Anything that we need to research more? Anything we need to add? Or any challenges that you see that we may not have had?
Tell me this, I'm teaching, all of a sudden, Francis over there just keeps playing with it, and I told him, okay, do I have the right to take it and hold it for the parent to come get it?
That's already in our discipline guidelines, yes. We're not changing those.
Okay.
Those are the same. With this, if the teacher's going to use it that day when they come in, she'll say, take out your devices and put them on the table. And then when they're through, it's the same way they do now for the media walls. And then when they're through, they put their devices away. And that means put them away.
So if you're a student and you're in a class where the teacher uses the technology extensively and it's a critical part of the instructional program, and you're abusing the network, you're violating our policy. I mean, how do we take it away, but, if we took it away, then they can't participate in the instructional program. I guess I'm wondering, what's gonna be the consequence for if it's an integral part of the classroom, but the students, violating the firewall or taking pictures?
They will have to use something in class that's available for them and not their
Right,
own
you could
device.
take away their personal device and
Right.
give them a school.
Right. And they won't be allowed on the network. And that's the reason we like their MAC address, so I can see where they go. And we can stop that MAC address from hitting the network.
I like the program at the New Tech School that we went to down in North Carolina, and this agreement they had that if you were not participating properly, you could be expelled from that group, and then you have to start on your own. I like that.
Yeah.
We really like that. That's something we'll be implementing.
I think letting them know what the expectations and guidelines are up front is just critical to the success of the program. And it sounds really, really like something they would really enjoy doing.
You have no more questions? I guess that's.
We can keep this, right?
Yes, it's not totally finished because I want to do the frequently asked questions and answers. I think that's a critical part because sometimes that answers questions that parents may have. So we're working on that piece with the committee.
Of course, with Mr. Gibbs just arriving, we don't want to implement this at the start of school, so we need to give him time to get to a comfort level of implementation. So as Mrs. Gomayer said, it will not be implemented at the beginning of the school year, but we're looking at sometime after.
Sometime in the fall.
And I'm sure we'll be adding to and doing as it takes hold and doing things. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we need to go into executive session to discuss personnel issue, contract. Regular session. It has been moved and seconded that we return to regular session. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Mrs. Overby, would you certify closed session?
Whereas the School Board of Henry County has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712.d of the Code of Virginia requires the certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Henry County hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered. Ms. Maddox?
Yes.
Mr. Milner?
Yes.
Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
And Mr. Zayer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some motions coming out of closed session. First, Mrs. Rogers will talk about the personnel.
Yes, Mrs. Maddox, I move that we approve the personnel report and personnel report amendment.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. And Candy also, the special placement and out of district.
Also move that we approve the recommendations of the special placement committee for in-district and out-of-district placements.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you. And we have some cases coming out of executive session. Mr. Milner, 40-R.
Madam President, I move in student case 40R that the student have his expulsion lifted with permission to attend Best High School.
Second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. And Mr. Miller, you want to do your other one?
I move in student case number 41R that the student have his expulsion lifted with permission to attend Center for Community Learning
submitted upon a clean drug screen. Second.
All in favor? Mr. Zayer, I'm going to start with 38R.
Madam Chairman, I move in student case number 38R that the student have his expulsion lifted with permission to attend Field O'Connell Middle School.
Second.
All in favor? And Mr. Zayer also has RCA 14-1.
Madam Chairman, I move in student case number RCA 14-1 that the student be released from compulsory attendance.